Okay, so the first EliteDesk I ever purchased was a EliteDesk 800 G2 Mini 35 watt. And I didn't know anything about them, but I thought they were cool and I got a great price. The guy was very motivated to sell it. I get it delivered, um, plug it in, start it up, and one of the things that I found pretty quickly was that the BIOS was locked, or I should say, there was a password that would be needed in order for me to get in and check things out, like updating the BIOS and setting values and virtualization, the whole nine yards. And at first I panicked and I was like, well, do I contact the seller? What am I going to do? I have no idea. So I looked up online and found some docs that talked about the G2. Of course, this is this is the G1 that we're looking at, but and it looked like, oh, there's this jumper that I can set and that will clear the password. And so I opened it up, I found the place, I moved it, I booted it up again, and no more password. Put the jumper back, and everything was great. So, and strangely enough, that is the only one I've had to do that on in all of the ones that I've purchased and all different permutations. But there are a lot of those out there, that people are getting, and maybe they just don't know how to do that reset, or maybe they don't realize it until they're at a point where they go, hey, I really need to do something. I need to turn on virtualization. I need to do something in the BIOS, and I go in and, oh, wait a minute, there's a password, and I'm trying different things, and the word password, and 1 2 3 4, and nothing's working. So in this video, what I wanted to go through is the different kinds of passwords that can be placed on these units, how to clear them, and kind of a side thing too is there is an a way in which you could get a unit that is so locked that you can't even use the jumper to clear the password. And I sure hope there aren't people out there that are running into this, but unfortunately there is setting there. So I want to show it to you, so at least you'll be aware of what's in there, what's available in terms of passwords, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll start by showing in the BIOS how you set the password, how you clear the password, and then for the various units, I'll show you what to do to clear it. Thankfully, the overall method is the same. The difference is where you find that jumper. The BIOS for the G1 looks much different than the G2, G3, G4, G5. And so that's why I want to show the G1, and then I'll probably just show the G2, and I'll kind of show where the various settings are. And for all the units, I'll show you where to find the jumper. So let's first start with the G1. We'll go into the BIOS on that. Okay, so here we've got the G1 BIOS. Of course, as it's starting up, you hit escape, and this should pop up, this startup menu. We're going to go down to the computer setup and pop over to security. And you'll notice there's two places to set a password, and then there's something called password options, which right now is dimmed out, and I'll show you why. So setup password, that is the password that is designed to keep folks from going into this setup utility unless they have the password. And obviously, let's say at a big corporation, you probably don't want people going in and messing with the BIOS, so you set some sort of password, and only your IT person that comes out that sits at the computer can, knows the password and can go in and make the changes. So that's the setup password. There's also something called the power on password. Now, this is a password you have to enter just to be able to boot your computer, which I guess would be a secondary level of security that you would put on. So let's say the person needs to be able to, log into Windows, but even before they can do that, they're going to have to put in a password just to get Windows to start booting. So that's the power on password. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to set the setup password, and I'll just do something simple. And I'm pretty sure that it's case sensitive. So be very careful when you're typing in these passwords that you don't have, caps lock. And you noticed you can't see what the password is either, which is not really great. So, but I'm going to go ahead and accept it. Okay, now you'll notice that there's this password options. I open that up. And this allows me to do other kinds of things to lock certain things, enable it, like I need a password in order to hit F9, F11 directly, etc. Now the scary one is this bottom one, which is called stringent password. It's not documented for the G1. It is documented for the 2, 3, 4, and 5. But I thought when I was playing around, I wonder if they have it. So yes, here it is. Now, with stringent password, if you enable it, you will not be able to clear the admin password by changing a jumper. This basically says, I don't want anyone to be able to somehow get in. The sad part is, of course, is that if you were to get one of these units off a seller, they may not even realize it, or somebody else does it. If they enable this stringent password, you're going to be stuck. Yeah, you got a usable unit, but you're not going to be able to clear the password. So if you decide to experiment with this, what I would suggest is set your admin password, log out, or turn the machine off, turn it back on, try the admin password again, make sure that you can get in. And if you're 100% sure that, okay, I've got a working password, everything's fine, then you can turn on the stringent password. Now you've had it fully locked, and if you want to experiment with changing some of the jumpers that we're going to show in the video, you change those jumpers, you come back, that admin password is going to be there no matter what until you go and clear it. So again, don't play with this very, unless you really know what you're doing and you really know about the password. Okay, but we're not going to do that here because I want to show you what's probably the most common is that the setup password has been set and you don't know it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to restart, and I'll show you what it looks like if you have a system that is password protected. So we'll save changes and exit. This is what you're going to hear, a beep, and then this is what's going to come up on the G1. It looks very different. It's kind of old school looking, but if you type in the wrong thing, it's going to keep on telling you. I don't know what happens if you do too many. I haven't tried that. I can only imagine it probably at some point it just reboots. But we're going to go ahead and type in our password, and it let me back in. Okay. That's, of course, if you know the password. Now, let's
go back to the unit and I'll show you what you do in order to clear that password.
Okay, so here we've got our G1. The method we're going to use with the G1 is the same as in all the other units. First and foremost, no power. Make sure that that's disconnected. We'll open it up. And we're going to find, in essence, the password jumper. And a lot of times it may say PSWD on it. My suggestion would be to do a lookup to find, if you can, the service manual that has some better pictures. But I'll show you on this one what you would do. Probably of all the units, this is the most cumbersome one. So if we can see here, you've got a jumper. What we're going to do is we're going to grab it, pull it off. Now, you can pull it off and just keep it to the side. They always recommend pulling it off and then just sticking it back on so that it's only on one of the jumpers, which is sometimes easier said than done. Okay, let's see. Okay, there we are. Okay, so it's off the side. So again, this is be the same sort of thing that we're going to do for the other units. They're just going to be in different places. But let's put the top back on. Let's give it some power. And turn it on.
So this is a good sign. We rebooted, and now we get the startup menu, and so without any sort of password. And I can go directly in. So now if we come over to here, we see that the setup password, there's nothing, and that password options is dimmed again, which means everything's been cleared out. Now, one thing we want to do before we do anything is we want to turn the unit back off, put that jumper back on. So let's do that right now.
Okay, same thing. First, power off. Open it up. Find that jumper, grab it, and now we want to put it back on the 2 pins. This way, if we put it back on the 2 pins, that will allow us, if we wanted to go back and actually set our own password. So we close it up, put power. I want to go back in and just show you how to, if you have a password set, how to clear it through the BIOS.
Okay, let's go back into computer setup. Now let's set a password. Okay. All right, so now the password is set. But let's say, time goes by and you decide, I don't want to do it anymore. If you just go to that set a password, it's going to want the old one. And now you could just basically just hit space. Or excuse me, not space. Hit the return key twice, F10 to accept, and now you've cleared the password. Okay, so let's bring up the BIOS for the G2, and we'll show you where everything is set in there, and then we'll go into the actual unit, and I'll show you where you would clear the password. Okay, here we are in the G2 BIOS. We'll go down to BIOS setup and security. And so you'll notice here, same thing as this password policies is dimmed right now. But if I go in and I set the BIOS password, See, the interface is a little nicer looking. You still don't get anything that tells you what the password is. So, hit return. And then verify. Okay, so now we have a BIOS password. Now the password policies is open. If I open that up, this is where I guess you could, I don't know, if you're really were really into it, you could set requirements for the admin password. This is that clear password jumper. So notice it says honor. If you change it to say ignore, what that's going to do is that you won't be able to clear that password by changing the jumper. So again, if you want to experiment with this, I would make sure that you know your admin password well and have tested it a couple times before you turn this on. Now, you can always change your mind later. If you have this set to ignore, you can always put it back to honor. So that's not a big deal. And then for clearing the password, you'd come in here, please type in your old password, and then I would just hit enter and enter. Oh, enter, okay. Oh, must contain character. Okay, well, let's see. Maybe I did that wrong. Okay. Oh, I guess maybe I hit it too many times. Okay. Enter. Okay, I guess this is just telling me I must have gone back to it. Anyway, that's how you would clear it. How you would clear the admin password. Okay, let's go and show where the jumper is for the G2.
Okay, here's our G2. Same thing, always take the power first. Open it up. And of course, it's in a completely different spot. Here is the CMOS reset button. This jumper right next to it. This is the one that I would, pull off the 2 pins, stick it on a single pin, put the, top back on, put power. When I boot, that will clear the admin password. Then I would shut down again, come here, and put the jumper back, and then start up again. Everything is nice and cleaned out. So the BIOS for, as I mentioned, for G3, G4, and G5 all look the same, but the jumpers are different. So let's get a G3 out and I'll show you. All right, I've got my G3. And this one's even, I think, even a little easier. Well, about the same. It's this guy right here. This would be the jumper. Pull it out. Stick it on one of the pins. We'll just pretend I did that. We'll stick it on one of the pins. We'll reboot. Make sure, there's no power when you're making all these changes. It clears it. Then you're going to come back and you're going to put the jumper back on. Okay, we'll put that. We'll do that one off camera. Okay, let's get the G4. Now the G4 and G5 have got to be the easiest. Right here. You're going to lift up the fan, and it's this little black jumper right there. Pull it up, stick it on the other. Go through the same restarts, etc. Come back, put the jumper back. Perfect. Now, people are going to say, well, okay, what about the G6, 8, and 9? Well, unfortunately, for those, they don't have this nice little override. Many people have had if where the G6 BIOS or etc. is locked, they've had to go back to HP and either get another motherboard or some other method to be able to unlock the password. Very similar with the G1, G2, G3, etc. If that stringent security has been turned on, you're also going to have to contact HP, may have to pay some sort of fee, have to prove that you own the unit. There's just a big problem. Uh, I have definitely heard of the G6 owners have had to deal with that. I will include a link of a supposed hack that involves shorting out some wires or using wires to short out some stuff on one of the chips that supposedly clears it. I don't have a G6. I have never tried it. Um, Personally, unless I was getting a great deal on a G6 locked, I wouldn't even go near it because you don't know. Some people say it worked, some people didn't, and there's also the chance of bricking it. So definitely, when it comes from the G6 and beyond, you really want to make sure that you do not have a locked BIOS. Obviously, the unit's going to still work. It's just that you're not going to be able to make any changes to it, especially let's say you're doing Proxmox and you need to turn on virtualization. Virtualization's off, you're not going to be able to use that the way it's supposed to be. So hopefully this has helped some folks to know, if they do get that BIOS locked unit, that by setting the jumpers, they'll be able to clear it out. And also to know, hey, maybe I do want to lock it down. Maybe I don't know. You're buying one of these units for a child, a relative that you just don't that likes to get into things that they're not supposed to. You want to keep them out of the BIOS and all that kind of stuff. At least you know how you can set it, and then perhaps if you ever need to clear it out for some reason, let's say you completely forgot it, then you at least be able to do the jumpers.